Hello friends, it's Nancy from Astrology and Angel Mediums, and today I will be discussing some of my favorite tarot books and books that I actively have in my practice that I think are great for anyone that is like me and likes to learn and likes to kind of expand their knowledge, their experiences, and even their understanding of how to use tarot. So there's so many books out there and I've read a bunch of them. I don't always have copies of like the books that I have really enjoyed. For the ones where I don't have a copy of the book, just because I've been trying to be more aware of like what I have in my household, because I have a lot of stuff. I am a little bit of a magpie or a little crow where I like a lot of things, and books are one of those things that I really, really, truly love. And I know it's been a while since I've kind of shared one of these like things that I love kind of videos, and I thought it'd be interesting to kind of talk about some tarot books, as you know, a lot of people have asked me what I recommend or what I enjoy or what I like, and I'm going to talk about a few of these books and why I have decided to keep a copy of them in my collection and why I use them in my practice. So I want to start off with The Intuitive Tarot by Richard Prosapio with Elizabeth Prosapio. And this is all about learning how to utilize tarot in a very intuitive manner. Now, what I really have enjoyed about this is the fact that it makes tarot seem very manageable. I think a lot of people look at tarot and they get overwhelmed by the amount of cards or having to remember everything. And I like that it just kind of gives you an opportunity to look at each of the individual cards, the story. It asks you questions to kind of ask yourself. It gives you an opportunity to kind of journal. I haven't written in this book just because I am one of those weirdos that like I buy journals and then I'm like afraid to mess it up or whatever, which I think is why I have really leaned so hard into like the Happy Planner, because I can just kind of discard whatever I don't like or get rid of whatever I don't like. And so while this isn't going to tell you like this is the traditional meaning of each of the cards, I think that there is a beautiful like storytelling kind of element in this, which I think is very beneficial, especially if you're someone that maybe works a little bit better with stories and kind of moving into that energy a little bit more. Now, what I do appreciate as well is a lot of books don't really focus on the minor cards. In this book, I think that I like that there is a lot of information on the suits, and then it kind of gives you a little bit of information, and then you can have your own space to write down whatever you would like regarding the card meanings or what you've kind of noticed in your own stuff. It does kind of talk about group readings, reading with others, reading for yourself. It's really well done, and it's not a very long book, which is nice, especially, again, if you're like, now I got to read this Bible in order to have an understanding of tarot. Now, the next one I'm going to talk about, especially if you are someone who's like a quote-unquote beginner, is going to be the Everything Tarot book by MJ Abadi. And this is great. If anyone is familiar with the Everything kind of books, there is a lot of information in this. This is great if you are new and you want something that you can continuously learn through and continuously, you know, kind of reference. So it talks about the history, it talks about, you know, what it means, the basics of tarot, how to use it. There's, you know, it talks about the different traditional tarot decks out there. So it is a great kind of general base knowledge of tarot and why, you know, a lot of people kind of reach for it at this point. Now, if we talk about the cards in detail, this talks about like how to, you know, handle your deck, how to purify it. And then here we have things with symbolism. And I do like that there's a little bit more information on here, as well as like some of the mythology with the cards, you know, the meanings of them. It's just, I think it's a great way of kind of connecting to why certain imagery was used for each of the cards, you know, things of that nature. So I think it's really nice to have an understanding of like why certain cards look a certain way. And then here, if we talk about, you know, each of the cards individually, you know, how to be a little bit more intuitive with it, how to connect a little bit more. It's a great book for those that maybe feel a little bit overwhelmed with everything having to do with tarot, because there is, you know, different things here. It talks about the planets. It talks about, you know, the different elements that kind of go into each of the cards. As you can see, it's still talking about the trumps or the major arcana. Now we talk about the minor arcana. You know, here it talks about, you know, what each of the suits represents, the numbers, you know, we can talk about, you know, what it means, what the court cards mean as well, which is nice because this has a much more, it has a little bit more information. A lot of people just, with minor cards, they kind of either just do a couple keywords. They don't really help you understand what that means, which I do really appreciate, especially for those that are like learning and maybe get a little bit overwhelmed or maybe don't really connect or relate to the imagery on the Rider-Waite-Smith kind of traditional tarot deck that many people tend to kind of purchase as their first tarot deck. It talks about different spreads and just things like that. So this is a great book if you are someone that is trying to understand tarot, but maybe like little chunks of information, which I do like that, is that I can just kind of be like, all right, what's the High Priestess? And I can just kind of pull it up and it helps whoever is trying to learn it grasp keywords and information and the story that helps them kind of understand why that card is appropriate for them at this time. Now, another kind of quote unquote, I guess, beginner book would be anything by Rachel Pollack is great. She also had one like Into the Forest. That was a fantastic book. I don't have a copy of that. I think I have a digital copy. I don't have a physical copy. So 78 Degrees of Wisdom. This is a fantastic book as well. It has a lot of information. I love her writing. I love her storytelling. I love her references that she has. And this is going to be much more like in depth as far as like here. If we just look at how many pages we have for the Magician, you know, it just gives you a lot of information to kind of have an understanding. There are card meanings in here. Obviously, she did kind of add that in here. But I think it's great if you're wanting to kind of expand your tarot practice, but maybe are like not quite ready to kind of jump into Benabel Wen's Holistic Tarot, which I do have that one. That's like a freaking tarot Bible, which that's another book I do recommend if you are a little bit further on your tarot journey and wanting like something a little bit more in depth and more intense. I feel like that's like definitely, it feels like that's a dissertation on tarot. But 78 Degrees of Wisdom, this is a fantastic book for those that maybe want a little bit more but aren't quite ready to really super dive into like real thick, chunky tarot books. Now, another quick kind of tarot book for a beginner or someone that maybe is like not super, I don't know. I know like there's some people out there that like are so hardcore on like, I'm just going to read it intuitively, which that's fine. Again, there's no tarot police. You can do whatever you want. That's the whole thing with tarot and any kind of intuitive practice. It's personal. It's up to you. You kind of get to decide how and when you want to do it. But this book, Tarot, Your Personal Guide by these In Focus books, and this is by Stephen Bright. This is a great one. It's, again, kind of quick. It has a little bit of information. I do like the inclusion of, you know, when we're talking about the cards as people or as characters that show up in our lives, what it means for you. So that is very nice, especially if you, again, are someone that maybe struggles to kind of see yourself in these cards, especially for things like the Tower. Someone that maybe is viewed as unstable, like, you know, this is someone that can, you know, just be a little bit out there. So there's some great questions that kind of allow you to look at maybe some reflection or some some journaling with your own personal journey. And it's something that's also included with the minor cards, as we can see here. I mean, we have a little bit about each of the suits, and then we have, you know, a little bit of information of like each of the minor cards as a person, and then also some questions, some keywords, things of that nature, which I do really appreciate, because I think sometimes the minor cards get kind of like forgotten in a lot of these tarot books. So it's really nice to see someone take the time out. Now, these are going to be a little bit more specific books on different things, but before we get into everything, I'm sure you've seen this book plenty of times. It's dusty because I have it out as a decoration, because it's a beautiful book as well. So here is the 1001 Tarot Spreads book by Cassandra Eason, and this is a complete book of tarot spreads for every purpose. Is this necessary? No, not at all. Is this fun? Yes. There are so many different spreads in here for basically the most random situations and questions that you could possibly have, which I think is nice. It's very interesting because sometimes you have a very specific situation in mind, and so you may be like, I need something that like helps me understand things specifically. So it's like, if you want to become a makeup artist or therapist to celebrities, there's a spread for that in here. If you want to become a successful musician or recording artist, there's a spread for that in here. If your partner objects to all your friends, there's a spread for that. Are you both ready for the life changes the baby will bring spread? Will a new young pet settle easily in your home, especially if there are other animals there? There's a spread for that. So see what I mean? It just has like the most random spreads. I think like one was like, if your neighbor's being too loud, like what should you do? When the wedding gift list is proving a problem, like if your teenagers want to hold a party, if you want to leave a secure job and travel the world, a new moon spread, you know, if you want to completely transform your image. I think it's very interesting. There's so many things in here. It talks about angels. It talks about astrology. It talks about moon things. There's like the hidden self spread, the past, present, and future karmic spread. I mean, there's some really good spreads in here to kind of help you with certain things. There's like different festivals and, you know, different saint spreads. So it's a really fun book in the sense of, if you're someone that is like trying to expand their practice, maybe you feel kind of tired of just pulling like the same sort of traditional kind of spreads, or maybe like you struggle with making up your own or having good questions, because sometimes I'll just like take pieces of like one spread here, one spread there, and kind of make my own thing to customize different readings for myself or for my clients. I think it's nice. So not something you need, but also just a ton of fun to kind of have in your collection if that's something that you're interested in. Now, I'm going to talk about these more specific books. Now, these two are like, this is a tarot spell book, and this is Madame Pamida's Magical Tarot. So Madame Pamida's books, I think she writes other books as well. This is one that I just ended up finding and just really enjoyed. And then this tarot spell book is by Sam Magdaleno. And this talks about how to use the cards for manifestation and magic. So this is nice if you are someone that maybe also practices like witchy stuff, and maybe you're wanting to use tarot. So this kind of gives you an opportunity to utilize the tarot deck as a manifestation tool. And it has each of the like meanings. It has, you know, representations of what's going on. It has like a spell you can use, journal questions. And I think that's really nice, especially if you want to kind of deepen your personal practice in a kind of like witchy kind of way. So like here we have like the Queen of Cups, and it's like deepening your self-love, and it has like a cacao elixir spell for self-love, you know, things of that nature. And I think that's really nice because I haven't really seen anything like this previously. So I think it's a nice addition. If you are someone like me, I, do a little bit of like the witchy stuff. So I do appreciate having this as a tool in my toolbox for me to kind of reflect on and utilize in different ways. So I think that this is a fun one. The Tarot Spell book, it's more focused on like magic and manifestation. And now Madame Pamita's Magical Tarot is how to manifest with the tarot deck, and using the tarot deck to kind of help you manifest in different ways. So this one's not like in order, and I do buy used books, so there's like stuff written in here or whatever, because I'd much rather find a used book than just focus on purchasing new. So things like this, where it's like, talks about the Three of Cups. It talks about, how to utilize the energy, how to kind of connect to the energy of each of the cards, things of that nature. And so there's some affirmations, there's things like that. This has been fun for a lot of like my own personal journaling, kind of like utilizing this with my daily pulls to kind of bring me a little bit of clarity of like what I need to focus on and how to really dive into the energy of the card that I'm pulling. So I think it's a fun one. It's interesting. I know she has written other books. I have not looked into it because, again, I have entirely too much stuff and I read a lot. So I have a lot of different books. I read a lot for fun. And I'm trying to be a little bit more of like reading a little bit more nonfiction, more things like this where I'm learning a little bit more, but I haven't really been doing it as much. So my bad. A girl is busy. Maybe I'll have some time soon. You guys have seen me talk about the Ancestral Tarot by Nancy Hendrickson. I have completely adored this series of books that she has. But when talking about tarot books, I wanted to talk about this one specifically because while the Ancestral Grimoire is more of like building out a grimoire and using a bunch of different tools, this one focuses mostly on tarot. And so how to like work with your guides. There's different spreads in here to connect with your ancestors, how to kind of utilize journal prompts in your own practice, how to do, getting to know like a little bit of like this information on your ancestors, things of that. So this has been a really great tool for me. It has really helped me in feeling much more connected to my ancestors, to my culture, my ethnicity, to the people that I didn't get to know in life. It's been really nice. So if you are looking for an ancestral practice that maybe is a little bit more guided, I would definitely recommend the Nancy Hendrickson books, the Ancestral Grimoire, and then also Ancestral Tarot. If you're someone that really likes to use tarot as well, I think it's a beautiful tool to use. I use the Relative Tarot by Carrie Paris with this book in conjunction. I love both of them working together. I think it works very well for me and my practice. And then finally, I'm going to talk about An Occult Guide to the Tarot by Travis McHenry. This is a beautiful book, and who is not a sucker for a beautiful book? It has like the nice like red edges, the inside's red. And this just talks about a lot of information when it comes to tarot. So if you're someone like me, I like to know the history. I like to do this. I like to have these moments where I just feel like I am just like discovering something very interesting. And here, it talks about the occult practices behind tarot, where some people are like, it's just, whatever. This talks about the Tree of Life and the Kabbalah and how they're referenced within the tarot cards and things like that. This is more of like a deep dive into tarot. If you're like, I don't want to just know the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith meanings or whatever. I want to know other things. This is really lovely in the sense of if you're someone who's maybe wanting to expand your practice a little bit more, learn a little bit more of like the hidden knowledge, I guess, within the tarot. This is great. So it's a little bit more philosophical, I guess, versus like, oh, this is just like the meaning for this card. It does have that, obviously, you can kind of see. And it does kind of talk about like the history of the imagery that they've used. They have some old samples of card decks that have been found over the years, which I do love. I do love a full picture of these beautiful old cards and kind of how the cards have changed over time to what we are now familiar with. And so here we have, you know, the minor arcana, some information on them. So it's a nice book if you are looking more for like the occult knowledge and wanting a little bit more of a look at that kind of information. Now, one of the books that I do not have here, but I will recommend as well is, like I said earlier, The Holistic Tarot by Benabel Wen, I believe. And I probably am saying that wrong, and I'm sorry. So I'll put the right information. That is a fantastic book. But again, it's like a dissertation on tarot. I know she has put out some amazing, incredible work in the tarot space. And I just absolutely adore someone that like really just like dives all the way in and really just like dissects things and explains things in such a deep way. I know that's not for everybody. As someone that has been, you know, reading tarot and practicing tarot since my mid-teens, and I'm now in my mid-40s, it's something that like I've kind of grown to the position of feeling like I'm comfortable learning about these things and wanting to know more, not just for my own readings and my own kind of like expertise to share with others, but more of the sense of like, I don't know, it's like astrology. It's something that I love. And so I want to learn all that I can about it as much as I can when I can. So I just wanted to share a couple of these tarot books. I know it's been a while since I've kind of shared something on here about things that I love. Do you need to have tarot books in your practice in order to be a good practitioner or be good at reading? No, not at all. But if you're someone like me that I am constantly trying to improve in all areas of my life, I think that these are great books for different areas that maybe will help you on your journey. And if you're not into using books and things like that in your own practice, you don't have to. Again, I really hope that these suggestions are books that maybe help you in different areas of your practice. I want to say thank you so much for joining me. Please take care, stay safe, and as always, make good choices. Bye.